Hello everyone, welcome to another episode. The title is Could Energy Be the Soul? The idea of energy through the first law of thermodynamics, is energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can change from one form to another. When we look at the esoteric idea of the soul, for me, the concept energy is a modernization of such an idea. Because the idea of the soul was in some sense a transmigratory attention or intelligence between realms. That means it's as if people looked at the world, opened their eyes had opened into the world, and they're like, okay, what's going on here? And they notice that there is the object-based realism of the moment. But in order to create the term soul, where the word comes from, it's derived from the word breath. It means breath from in earlier times. And the notion is that the soul is not an object, yet it is what is moving between lives. Now, this between lives, the more you go back in history, it's hilarious. The more multidimensional the place was. The more you go back, people were actually legit, walking as if gods were on clouds. They were walking as if the gods were also walking on clouds. So I find, I don't know if this is the right term, but a synonymity between the word energy and soul. They are both there, and they both cannot be created or destroyed. From the Abrahamic context, from religious, there's a lot of religious people, so I can't ignore talking about it. But the soul is the mystery of the source. And when I think about the soul and the idea of God, and then when I think about energy, and then I try to think about if the energy was like the soul, what would the notion of God be? Do you know? For if we were wondering what is the God of energy, not what is the God of the human being, not what is the God of the human mind, not what is language thrown at high speed into the ears of the person. I feel we have, if we see an interchangeability between the word energy and soul, in Vedic thought, this is hilarious, but in the monotheistic traditions, the soul is a mystery. Literally, to want to know more about it is kind of blasphemy, because it is something part of the creator beyond conception's will. But in polytheistic traditions, the idea of the soul has been taken a bit more complexly. Now, in Abrahamic religions, through its later denominations, for example, in Islam, through Sufism, in Christianity, through Gnosticism, these were more focused on the mystical dimension of the experience of the activity, whatever it was, whatever practice it was. So in Vedic thought, in books such as the Gita, the Upanishads, there's various pointers to how the soul has an individual position and a collective position, right? In the monotheistic tradition, just to say this again, the collective position is inaccessible by the individual archetype. But in Vedic and yogic thought, it is accessible. That means it's like a certain, it's like both polytheistic traditions and monotheistic traditions, they both see a multidimensional reality, but their conclusion on the access to the source of that multidimensional reality is different. That means Um, Me personally, at a young age, I was born in Iran, and then I came to Canada, Vancouver, at the age of 7, and then you know, parents' business changed and had to go back for a couple of years to come back here. So I'm acquainted with both cultures, and I can tell you that in the religious, you can see there's type of religions that the person can't touch. It's as if like the religion is like a hat. You put this hat on the person's head, the person can't take it off. It's like if the person touches that hat, even tries to touch it, they are not wearing the hat anymore. So it is the case that many human beings, in you can say, uh, of course, guys, I'm just one person sharing, keep in mind. But I'm just saying that certain ideology at a young age is emotionally accepted, therefore, whatever amount of outer realm reasoning there is cannot change it. There's some ways the mind, I would say, the human mind, takes shape that it can only change from within. Because unless the person looks at it, from within, they can't see another subject that can be evoked in the moment. That means when I want to work with objects, I look without, I go without. I look outside. But when I want to work with subjects, then I don't treat myself as an object. That means when I speak, I'm not an object to myself. But when I'm super still and silent, sure. You know? When I speak, there's something more. There's an additional. There's as if like some sort of, how like on your phone you have apps open that you didn't know about. So it's something like that. That when the person speaks, it's like an additional application of intelligence is being found. Excuse me. Sorry, guys, my throat is up. I think nature is slowly and slowly telling me to slow down on these talks, but we'll go as far as we can. Um, I'll say that the whole point is that if energy is interchangeable with the idea of the soul, and if the idea of the soul had a sort of individual soul and a collective soul, in Vedic thought, the individual soul is named Atman, the collective soul, it's not often said, but Parabrahma. So now I thought, what if we take a similar analogy? What if we treated energy like it had soul? You know? Who says energy doesn't have a soul? I'm gonna debate this. Energy can now be seen, if made similar to the idea of the soul, as an individual energy and a collective energy. This collective energy I consider to be existence. The individual energy I consider to be experience. That means I sit here, guys. I've sat here many days wondering about, the philosophical implication of being on a rock in the middle of nowhere. And I've noticed that experience is divided between potential and kinetic. I would tell you, when it comes to existence, we are all existing. No person can go to another person and be like, "Yo, I exist more than you. What are you gonna do about that?" So we can say existence is a collection of formless souls. I mean, that's a bit too far. If we were to consider an individual energy, we have the word Atman. Let's call it, let's create a word here. Let's call it energy. I wanted to create a term, guys, and change the E for an A, but it sounds off. It's like, guys, I found something else other than energy. It's called anergy. So anyways, guys, I'm just saying that soul cannot be created or destroyed. It's changing from lifetime to lifetime. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It's changing from form to form. These forms turn to be potential, kinetic. I feel that when it comes to an energetic interpretation of our own experience, when we're individual, we find ourselves in a relationship where we look at potential. And here's the thing, I could say existence is potential energy, experience is kinetic energy, and energy cannot be created or destroyed. What that means is, it is true, the human being will die. That means, don't get me wrong here, I'm not an immortal talking to you. You know? Guys, Aziz in the chat section has done something remarkable. This is a great moment. Aziz says it's energy. Remarkable. Remarkable. You know? Thank you, Aziz. That was, it's, I know, it's like, there's something that, guys, trust me, I've left a lot of breadcrumbs, you know, a lot of trails in these talks, you know, and seeing as somebody from another part of the world being able to notice to create another word, that's incredible. So yeah, guys, call it energy. You know, behind your eyes you can call it energy. In front of your eyes you can call it outergy. You know, if you're an who knew OG stands for outergy. You know, I'm a straight up outer energy. Michael Chavez in the chat section says, can collective consciousness be changed by an individual consciousness in one lifetime? What is it spectacular is that, Michael, when we look at it physically, it's the opposite. Physically, the collective consciousness is changing the individual. That means, like, technically we're all like chopped liver here, because like because existence is making the moves, you know, the main moves. So in my outer realms, I am not God. In my outer realms, there is just an event taking place. In my inner realms, there is access to event plus watcher, unknown watcher. And that unknown watcher has been the fascination of my lifetime. So I would say you could think as if it's because the collective is changing, the individual is changing, or you can think it's because the individual changes that the collective changes. But if, Michael, if you're speaking about the collective consciousness, not of nature, but of human beings, of course, that's the only way it can change. It's your individual consciousness, that's it. That's like there's a reason Martin Luther King had a dream, you know, there's a reason Gandhi, you know, didn't wear jeans. Like there's Now my fascination really, guys, is that there's different interpretations, and what has taken place is that we have been a silent movement of nature through some sort of noticing this silence. I think honestly, awareness to silence creates a consciousness. Because if there's so much noise and movement, how do you know what you're conscious of? So I would say, oh, this is an important statement. Awareness to silence is where consciousness emerges from. And that awareness is not from here. I will tell you that behind the eyes of the human experience, there is not a human experience, but there is experience. It's just not human. And it's not anything else conceptual based. That means there is a geometrical dimension. This is me being a bit personal here, going more into my own inner perception, but in my inner realms, I am a geometrical being. I am pure geometrical being in my inner realms. Not just when I say pure geometrical being, that means everything can be translated to geometry in your inner verse. I would say the Atman of energy. So, Atman energy. Okay, now I'm being too ridiculous. We gotta have some sort of style here. Um, we have individual face of energy. We have the collective body of energy. Collectively, everybody's completed their purpose. When I look at my collective purpose, by the mere position of my existence, I have served the image of the moment. That means as I'm physical existence right now, just by the nature of even being a statistic, that's a huge thing, you know? They say, there was this quote and he's like, people are not just statistics, like some guy was freaking out and he's like, we're not statistics, we're people, goddamn, you know? But I will tell you, there is, to be a statistic is a mighty colossal task. Collective existence, you can enjoy it at best or be grateful for it. When it comes to the outer realms, whatever happens, happens. You know, this may sound strange, but ever since being introduced to my own sort of intuitive callings towards meditation, I can tell you that it's not that I want. It's like you get to a point where you can't want anything from the world, and you can't not want anything. It simply becomes just an occurrence. I can't emphasize this enough that sometimes we are like surfing over a certain dynamic phenomena through ideology. That means, imagine there's two people, you know, let's say two people fight, and you saw this, you know, you got to the scene late, you couldn't stop them, you just saw the aftermath. And then some other people came and asked you what happened here. And you're like, there was a fight. Now, that sentence, there was a fight, is an ideological surfboard over the actual incident, which was the ocean waves. You see? So we are linguistically surfing meaningfully through meaningless existence. Now, could it be that energy has a comfort with itself that surpasses identity? That means, imagine um, we are here thinking that the meaning of life is us to just wield our free will in a certain way while we're here. But I would tell you, sometimes I feel we have been made for the world. That means it's as if I thought, if you look at this, this is an interesting, maybe to some, maybe this may be meaningless, but to me, it's a very crucial observation. Why is an apple on the tree, on an apple tree? Why do we have fruits on the tree that are the size of the hand of the creature? Do you know? Why don't we have watermelons with like 12 stems connected to the tree? You know? So, what I'm trying to say is simply that either we adjusted to the environment or the environment adjusted to us, or us and the environment are always endlessly adjusting to what's to come. Right now, I am being energy, right? Right now, everybody who's speaking, everybody who's listening, me who's speaking, We are all energetic phenomena, and we exist very easy. So technically, energy is moving to itself. It has named this movement, consciousness, soul. But the inseparability could just be in man's mind. It could be that the mind can only suffer, and that which surpasses energetically with a sort of energetic truth beyond. Now we get to the subtitle, that if there was a way to move beyond form prior to the eye's activity, that means the whole mystery is that when we close our eyes, there is a knowing not based on visuals, yet the echo of the visuals. Sometimes when I look at something and I close my eyes, I literally feel light is an echo. You know what that means? This may be a very odd idea, but imagine, you know how light hits an object, there is an energy carrying system going on. The light hits the object and then enters our eyes. Now, then we perceive the information that light has carried into our perception. You know. Now, what's interesting is imagine a sound. Imagine, this may be strange, but imagine there is music. Imagine somebody is just singing a cappella at the end of a room. Okay. And imagine you're at the front of this hallway like a room, long rectangular room, and you shout, you start beatboxing, and there's someone with lyrics singing a cappella. The echo of your beatbox and the a cappella of that person, imagine, this is not the case, they're both occurring on their own individual level, but I'm saying, if the sound wave hit a position as it was reflecting, it gave what was there. Do you know? That means what is strange is that there is force prior to a full comprehension of the totality of form. And because the force is animate, the mystery will remain. Pete in the chat section says there's math in everything. Look at the design of leaves, acorns. Yes, guys, that is the golden ratio. The golden ratio is a very important idea. It is literally like, I don't know, if there were gods wanting to patent universes they had built, like, the god would patent it as the golden ratio mathematical sequence. And really just the fact that there's mathematics is the proof of extraterrestrial life to me. That means mathematics is extraterrestrial perception. It is a sort of, as if like it doesn't matter what kind of being you are. It doesn't matter if you're an ant, a human being, or an invisible giant. Or a giant field. It doesn't matter what you are. Matter is within you, and then begins the journey. That means it is this strange thing where it took us 4.5 billion years to condition ourselves as human beings, but now we have reached a point, especially with technology accelerating, that the user of technology requires to be conscious. That means now more than ever in any moment, visualize all of history. Now, in 2020, I will tell you, especially as people are waking up beyond language worship. It is becoming so crucial for poets, for artists to roar. It is like the time, that means just like a general in a battlefield, it's like there's different units there that are sent forth. It's like the cavalry goes from one angle, the front lines are stable, and so there's different movements, different initiatives. I would say for all those human beings that have cared for the creatively unknown, now more than ever, the world needs your inner realms. Now. Why? Because till the year 2050, which is expected a technological singularity, is the only time we have to update the character, the inner characteristics of the users of technology to come. That means there's gonna be a course probably in the future, mandatory in all educational systems, of how to look at technology. Because for me, the word technology is all of modernity. That's the only new thing. The tools were becoming complex. Even in regards to millions of years taking different parts of the brain developing, also with the epigenetical factors of just the ecosystem and the environment. That means sometimes I say, okay, I tell myself, all right, I have free will, great, But this free will is, of course, on an individual level, free will is true freedom. But on another level, I'm like, who am I when the whole cosmos is here? Seriously, when you look at the earth, you feel like a giant. When you look at the sky, you feel you're on the shoulder of giants. Recently, my attention has been going to this notion that if we treated like how I'm treating like energy as if it's interchangeable with the view of soul. Sometimes if we treat the world as if it's interchangeable with the view of self, it's as if the world, I gotta say this before actually I can continue, just keep this and keep the previous point, the self becoming the world, just be aware of that. This guy was interviewed. His name was Alamos. I don't remember his name, on this incredible YouTube channel known as Buddha at the Gas Pump. But I personally think Buddha would buy a Tesla. But, but Buddha at the Gas Pump, pretty much this guy was being interviewed. I forget the interviewer's name. But anyways, the interviewer was a great interviewer. He interviews this guy about mysticism, Sufism, and then the interviewer says, "Tell me about your history." The guy pauses for a moment, and he says, "Which history?" And then something like that, and the interviewer says, "What do you mean?" And the guy says something like, if I remember correctly, he says, "I have three types of history. I have a history that is my individual history from the moment I was born as an individual to the moment I will end as an individual. Then there's a part of me which is my universal history, as if this is the history of the guy when he is just the mind. The body has a history, then the mind has a history. And then the guy said, there's a part of me which doesn't have a history. That was the third history. third dimension of history. That means you can remember up till the mind. Beyond the mind, it is not image based. This is why we consider the mind as a field, because if you move beyond it, you're not in the jurisdiction of the mind anymore. There was this character in this Japanese comic book, and a hobby of mine is just like how nature photographers they zoom in on nature. I zoom in on stories and characterhood, ideological characterhood. That's one thing that I've spent a lot of time looking at. How the character is being in the story, and how the story is being, the psyche of the character. Pretty much okay, long story short, I can't, I'll go on a tangent, too far of a tangent, but I'll say there was this Japanese comic. In it, there was a character that was of a sort of demonic disposition. Now, this character, though, had understood itself beyond its form. So this character suddenly found itself in a moment. This is all in a Japanese comic book, okay? This character finds itself in a moment where he can access this divine resonance of power, right? And people ask, how, you who are of the darkness, how did you access the power of the light? Do you know? And the darkness responded and said, it was in that Japanese comic, to hold true to its theme, to its storyline. It's the character says it's just the resonance. That means it doesn't matter what you are. Due to free will's position, energy can happen on different levels regardless of the archetypal character. Regardless of the egoic construction in place. The whole point of me sharing that was simply, and just telling you about the guy with the histories and having a history, a soul that has no history, because on that level, there is no identity. That means, think of it this way. So there is energy everywhere. Now we human beings, we use energy, okay? So we can choose to use energy that is accessible and visible, and there is, let us say, invisible energy. Another term for it would be dark energy, energy that is still in the mystery of the unobservable universe. What can I say? We are all candles. Bunch of candles. And our minds are the light of the candle. And the light of the candle, for example, illuminates a room. Our minds layer upon the world meaning. That means, really, there was a reason I chose the name Mr.Within alongside just, I like how it sounded. The reason I chose it is because I realized the individual in a void universe can perceive itself as void if there is an empty sense of self, and there can be a state of mind, of the sort. Then there is nothing to hold. That's the thing. A person can search many kinds of knowledge, but you gotta realize that because it's temporary, the most important knowledge is a response to this. The soul for me doesn't have a personality. That's the school of thought the halls of the school of thought I walk in. For me, the soul is pure unknown. Energy can be known temporarily in certain ways. Um, what is more important than what's in front of the eyes is what the eyes are. You know, a person can go a whole lifetime not asking who is looking. And they may be even afraid to ask that question. They may feel that question is uh, unwelcome in the modern world. But I will tell you that question is welcomed anytime you're in the world. Anytime you're out, you find yourself on a rock in the middle of nowhere, the why questions are the kings of philosophy, you know? And there will come a time, because I'm just waiting to see it, in the upheaval, or you can say the rise of the neo-philosophical age. Do you know? What that means is right now in the academic realm, something interesting has happened. Analytical philosophers have won. What does this mean? That means literally think of all the different branches of knowledge in an educational system. You know, I would say the king, right now, it's like the king has changed. There was a time in history where philosophy was the most important subject. Even before science, philosophy is older than science. You know? Because before there was double checking, there was just engagement. So the thing with philosophical inquiry is that you notice the unknown and you run. You instantly move towards. You know? You know, there's times where I feel like it's so mind-boggling and meaningless why nature needs to see itself. That means that is one of my biggest questions, biggest mysteries on this planet. Why design? That means just to fathom it was as if like I don't know how people can fathom, or like, let me tell you, the world got fascinated with form and sound too early, too soon. That means when I look at it, it's like they're like, okay, first there's emptiness, then there's fullness, you know? First, like, the room is empty, then you put the furniture in. So when I think about emptiness, we can't fathom emptiness outside of stuff. It is unfathomable. We cannot fathom beyond locality. Do you know? So we can say the human perception, due to its limitations, is like a belief in a changing world, just by its natural position. That means I don't see Wi-Fi waves right now. You know, I can't see how many routers are in like 100-meter range from me without a phone. So it's like, how many other things are we not seeing about this world? We have moved into the era of collective responsibility through sincere individual experience. We have to be humans before there is no humanity left anymore. Like, how ridiculous would it be if, like, we built an advanced civilization, but we weren't living in it in an advanced way? It would be like, what's the point? What's the point of all our ancestors just living fearlessly till the next day so that we could be here to wonder the same questions? It is remarkable. It is on some level a personal search. After the personal search is over and you have found contentment with your inner realms, then service begins. That means some people are under the impression they have to be in meditative samadhi under a tree till the end of time. Excuse me, that is not the case. You know, the whole point is you are polishing the mirror, you are getting better signal. You're an antenna that's tuning itself. Once the antenna is tuned, now it picks up the signal. It hears the voice of the real earth. And then, regardless of your archetypal disposition, how you have seen forms and rules and formations, and how information has even been classified, you become a servant of the living universe. And that is the symbiosis with how Terence McKenna, Pete mentioned him, Terence McKenna says there is another tenant in the room. We are not alone here. Our eyes are not just our eyes. But what is that invisible other? That's the point. There never was an invisible other. There was just an invisible self. There's just a greater invisible self. That all the invisible others are like the kaleidoscopic resection of the mind that dabbles with the unknown. Behind your eyes, you are a world, believe it or not. In front of your eyes, you're in a world. Like, how cool is that? You know? I'll share a story, something personal from my life. There was a time, guys, I was fasting, like, not for any holiday reason. I just went into the situation where I didn't seek food. Literally, I was living for some time where food wasn't the focus. And then I remember I had gotten so skinny that sitting on a chair was uncomfortable. And I remember just sitting in that moment for a second and just wondering, okay, where is this system being taken to? That even though a person can have passion, but that passion could not be of this world and could totally be ignorant to the rules of this world. I remember in that state, it was a moment where I realized everything is an opportunity, but we tend to not notice it until it's taken away. And if you realize every day is universal expressionism, that it's not that you are being a new you, it's that the whole universe has found another way to look at itself. So, guys, I feel I have spoken about good energy with the soul. Now I'm going to give two options for the people listening. Three options. Okay. One option is I could keep looking at just energy, or let me say it like this. I could go back to how energy could be the soul. I could talk about the subtitle, moving, how do you move in your inner realms, like how to move as a non-thought. And then I can also go into a poetry tunnel. So I don't want to type this, guys. Anybody who's heard me, like, people can give a suggestion. Okay, maybe I should type. Okay, so people can choose, guys. I'm gonna get a quick intermission. I'll be back. Okay, so all right, I'll go with the subtitle, guys, and then on the title. So, moving beyond form, behind your eyes. So here's the thing: how do we fathom movement prior to sight? That means we required stillness, we required an awareness to a still position, and then as there was change from that still position, we came with the meaning of movement. You know, we noticed we could create the concept for it. Behind my eyes, how I have moved this form is not technically like behind the eyes. I say behind the eyes in the sense of to wonder about where subjects, that invisible room where imagination is occurring. But I would say that there is a sight, there is a way of sight. It's not a way of looking, but it's a state of sight. That is the whole moment. So in my personal experience, it was literally like if there was a sphere around you. Imagine you're sitting with a group of people, and suddenly you feel like your moment. If there was a sphere around you, the sphere just roll out of the room into another room. It's as if your intuition. I would say the moment is because we're embodied. We can only comprehend the disembodied entity or energy through the absence of the language. So what does that mean? That means we have picked up language as a creature to be an individual. If the usage of language changes, the consciousness cannot be fixed in the individuals. I feel we are all like the X-Men, but on a micro level. And that micro level is the change and difference in our characters, in our attitudes. let us use the traditional model of body, mind, soul. Let us see this like an onion as three concentric circles or spheres. Now, the body is a sphere, it is a world of its own. To move beyond the world of the body, there has to be activity from the mind. Because we notice consciousness as an unknown activity of what we're considering mind, we know that the body is not only, we are not only in a physical universe. We are in a physical universe where after a very long time, the physical stuff is doing something weird. It is asking itself questions. It is self-inquisitive. That means we thought the gene was only self-replicating. No, it is self-questioning. Our eyes are doors, but we have been worshipping the doorknob. You know, honor was a very important idea. In a lot of, the more you go back in time, it was the backup system to the human psyche. That means every human being knows this earth is a messed up place. Every human being knows. And even if they don't, they will. But the whole thing is that in the middle of chaos, in the battlefields of chaos and order, minds are walking around. And I feel there should be an honor for the body. There should be an honor for the work of the mind. And there should be an honor for the work of the soul. You know. So if we treat the mind as the body of the soul, then the soul is the free will of the mind. When I give these talks, before I have given the talk, I'm a body. At some point in the middle of the talk, there is a sort of sense of a dynamic mind where I feel like my inner realms are like wind, literally the wind element. And the body will rebel against the mind until it realizes the mind was here first, and then it will bow. The mind will rebel against the soul until the mind realizes that the soul is here first, and the soul has no content. What it means is we are intelligence prior to form, but because we notice this through form, we are thinking we're only the form. Now the issue is that because we are considering that we are human beings, and human beings, that's an individual, it means any time in the experience of our species that we move beyond a sense of if attention is going towards a collective energetic destination. Right now, the person says, I have energy, I need energy. There's types of energy. But I feel if energy is truly intelligent and faceless, fear was a mirage. in an eternal game of elemental continuity. That means it's kind of honorable. It's as if like the whole cosmos has been given an order. Imagine you're, let's say you are a general on a battlefield, and you see there has been other generals here before you. And so you see the other generals have, it's as if the whole universe has been given a command, go forth, and as if the whole cosmos, is moving forth. And so I'm kind of sometimes I feel like I'm sitting here and the universe is going somewhere, and I'm like, where is it going? That means imagine you notice that your greatest friend was your planetary sector. That means imagine an extraterrestrial alien species, a civilization came in the future to human beings and was like, human beings, we have a grudge against the Earth, but we don't have a grudge against the creatures on Earth. We will transport the creatures to another planet, but we're going to destroy the Earth. And we were in a sort of kind of negotiation, kind of messed up situation. Our human species, as if the extraterrestrials want to destroy Earth, but they are willing to transfer human beings to a totally protected space or wherever, like as if the species, as if an extraterrestrial species has beef with our planet, like, so it would be a situation, how many human beings, imagine suddenly all humanity had to like huddle up and think about it, how many human beings would say, yeah, man, we have no choice, these aliens might destroy us if we say no? Nobody knows what's going to happen, And there are people who say, no, if we leave the Earth, what are we? This is our planet, this is our home. And imagine we have a percentage of the population saying, no, we won't let the Earth go down. The captain's going to sink with the ship, And then there's some who are like, no, we got to go, And eventually what happens, let us say, is that all the world leaders are sitting and thinking, and meanwhile a young child goes to the alien and says, you don't belong here, leave. And imagine the extraterrestrial, everything that had been given a subtler realm authorization suddenly gets pulled back. You see, there's two things. Force is bad if it destroys, but sometimes force can be used to just push back problems and for other problems to be solved, I'm just saying the world it's like, forget about weird people. The universe is a weird place. Right now, we're considering a singular dimension in society. Maybe people at home or when they're alone, their inner verse appears different to them. But in the outer verse, in our outer realms, pretty much there is not even that much. It's like we're at a phase of action. In the outer realms, it's just opinionless, instant effort of getting the action done, right? In the inner realms, that's where the general's tent is, And if this realm again was seen as a battlefield between chaos and order, you are moving here, And your free will is what is in at your service. That means if we were to ask, would we want 8 billion advanced human beings on the planet? You know? Or would we have 8 billion weak human beings on the planet? It's like, which one would we choose? We would instantly choose the advanced. Now, the question is, why have we not chosen that now? There's a really good feeling. It's a great feeling, actually, when many systems march together towards the same universal aim. Because the concept of an institution or system right now, I will tell you,
There's so many. It's like religions have not just been limited to ink on a page, they have manifested. Every ideological system through a period of time goes through manifestation cycles. What does that mean? That means like right now I'm giving these talks, there's like, less than 10 viewers. Okay, but in for example, I don't know, maybe some time in the futures, the approach of the realm to the content changes, and it's the same with everything. There's a story from this yogic sage named Shri Ramana Maharshi. Shri Ramana Maharshi, this man, some people called him the incarnation of silence. His whole teaching was to sit still, be quiet. The wisdom is following you, it will find you if you don't chase. And his path was self inquiry in the sense that the question, who am I, out of all the questions that can emerge from the psyche, is the ultimate question, where Sri Ramana Maharshi says, like a fire. Excuse me, like a stick that is used to adjust all the different sticks on the fire, then you throw the last stick that you've helped use to adjust all the other sticks back into the fire. That means this question is a question that it purifies the whole psyche, then it also dismisses itself, you know. Many moments in this life have the honor of the catalyst. Sometimes I feel I have I am just one moment of sight, and there are moments where I feel sight is being me, you know, rather than the self being multidimensional, the world is multidimensional, rather than the world being multidimensional, the self is multidimensional, and the endless angles to the living realm through perception. Before I end off, I would like to read an essay I wrote in 2017 from this book called The Source of Language. It's unpublished. The essay is called How Do You Exist? Question mark.
How do you exist? This question is not pointed at an individual mind that considers separation as the premise of reality, as all words are found to remind all beings of a wordless unified paradise. How you exist in a common setting of consideration will find itself looking through the void mirror of destiny, and realizing beyond the self all that is all that is. So who is asking the question? When ideology has become your artwork and you have self-inquired about the deepest aspects of the architecture of your consciousness and self-awareness, all reality demands a sky that holds all within nothing. If consciousness can be seen through geometric halos behind the head of a selfless monk, how does the yogi transcend the whispers of materiality? I've spelled it with 2 T's here. That suggests finishing your mission is the only way. Your attention is the only currency in an industry that is void to even begin with. Observe, study, then absorb the nature of your thought, and wonder about the true nature of how we exist. Is language rigged with ignorance? Or is the consciousness so supreme that it is testing itself? All phenomena is an advent of consciousness. Consciousness as it remembers beyond the I am entity becomes a source of wisdom never before seen. The mystery of life is more exciting than the death of words. Beyond the conceptual reality, we are free beyond space and time. For God's sakes, we are beings in language, but we are not of it. As our world reminds how the bird of paradise was not caged in an earthen cage. Beyond the self, there is no questions and answers. The simplicity of complex creation is the creator. Be free beyond an idea. For the sadhu, there is a war of language going on. The wonder of an eternal view is just the remembrance of a moment beyond the imagination that is light years ahead of a blind linearized logic. As equivocal as it may seem, there are always hidden paths in your reality. But they all lead towards the self-discovery of the source of mind, which language is just a shadow on the wall of. There is no battle with pure or impure thoughts. The source of language may be said to be like a group of peaceful pigeons blocking the sun but revealing the one light as they disperse into their innate natural disposition. We're not here to build temples and transcend through them. So do you really need the temple? Our economy, just like our science, must never forget about humanity. If there's a religion you want to pursue, let humanity never be forgotten. I shall elaborate beyond technological paradigms, for our car keys go into the engine when we open our eyes in the morning. Study how your consciousness and transcend into your sincerest nature, and once you have played with the fullness of the world, wonder about the nature of the empty. Abstraction is a mountain peak in which every poet has wondered how to climb, but as the mystic knows, language is an unnecessary show. What is the essence of your self-awareness, and who are you answering to? In today's depression era, ideology must be eradicatedly commanded into its proper place. But if God shall help us, but if God shall help us, your sincerity will also belong to the whole world. You're either with us or not with us, or even beyond the yin-yang symbol. But the roots of your existence must be sought from within. Could your sensory perception be sought from within?
As you realize excuse me, as you realize that every human being is in the universe of a suggested billion trillion stars. Back in the day, consciousness didn't exist and time and space cannot testify. Playfully reinterpreted, the world is being drawn based upon how much we have drawn upon the mystery of the presence beyond personality of nature. But as transcendental ideas confront the void and are synchronistically activated, one will soon realize the loving hand of an almighty intelligence. Beyond all, that is made of the love. That is made of the love of the whole universe. Listen to your greatest guide, the moment of existence that is now. Your hand is already on the steering wheel. The unknown nation of images that we call our imagination must be explored in empty and multidimensional ways. You are the source, and you are beyond a you in quotations. Who is reading this book? Slow hand clap for the mind that is self-reflectively transitioning the world. Be more interested than an atheist uncle who's willing to be a robot. There is an intelligence within nature that must not be ignored. Beyond unspeakable focus, the divine administers all things in space. Who holds the known and unknown in their hand? And is it right or must it be left behind? Once the unattainable is observed, the attainable has become a presence beyond the ideal of a liberation beyond words. Kaleidoscope thinking must be promoted for the mystic that seeks the ultimate within, beyond the ideology that is too temporal to wait. Who are you when eternity is your essence? It's like time stretching its hands and being like, it's like the good old days when there was no time. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. I feel I still have enough energy to go on Discord. What topic? Let's see. What topic is worthy of the School of Athens to? Okay, let's go with the idea of the mind. So, hang on, guys. So guys, for those interested, join the Discord community. idea of School of Athens is 2.0. I thought like School of Athens was a place where philosophers back in the day from different parts of the world would come and they would have dialogue, and the spirit of rhetoric would move through them, and they would discuss the nature of the causal position of the realm. And I thought right now we have access to the internet. There's 8 billion people on the planet, and what is the most efficient thing we can do, to attempt conversations that are ahead. So anyways, guys, for those interested, join the Discord. Blessings. Much blessings. Saying, could energy be the soul? If the soul was energy from the beginning, the answer is yes before it could be known.